Well, good morning, everyone. We will call this meeting to order, March 10th, 2026. We will start with an invocation by Pastor Darisaw, and then we will be observing the pledge by Vice Chair Commissioner Moss. And after that, we have a special guest with our Congressman Mike Herodopoulos that will give us a few words. Please rise.
Let us pray. Our Lord and our God, you who are the supreme ruler of all men, because of your love for us, you made us your friend. For it is you that we live, move, and have our being. We are aware of the fact that you know the fiber of our hearts because you are all-seeing. For you are our God who has all power in your hands. We appeal to you to help us to faithfully execute all that you command. Because you're the God of heaven and earth who shows no partiality, we are appealing to you to show us how to have that same mentality. Because you are our God who is a God of justice, you modeled this by having your Son to come down to earth to live among us. However, we confess that as mere men, we have imperfections in the way that we treat one another. But we know that we are to demonstrate love for our neighbor as if they are our brother. We recognize that there is no authority except that which you have ordained, because you have established this board of commissioners. They are depending upon your guidance for your justice to be maintained. Therefore, you said, if any of us are lacking in wisdom, let them ask you, and you will give it generously. So they will be overseers of the affairs of this county to make this a greater community. And with that divine wisdom, it is our responsibility to submit ourselves to them as our governing authorities, to work in a cohesive way in accordance with your God-ordained priorities. Since they would have to give an account one day for the manner in which they lead, temper us with the petitions that we plead. Since we both as leaders and followers want to do that which is pleasing to you, with faith we surrender to your will for this county as you bring us through. Knowing that it's you that has our best interests at heart, we want to thank you as you lead these commissioners with the fairness of your wisdom that you shall impart. If there is anything that is weighing them heavily on them that may prevent them from carrying out your divine will, we're asking you to remove it, because we know that it is our adversary whose job is to steal and to kill. So with their hearts at peace and minds that are refreshed, thank you, Lord, that you have positioned them to bless and to be blessed. So we ask it all in your holy and authoritative name. Amen and amen.
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 I'd like to express our gratitude to our active military, especially those who stand in harm's way right now as we stand here, and also to all of our veterans. God bless. The best way to honor them, we'll pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning again, and ladies and gentlemen, we are honored today to have a member of Congress that represents Indian River County that is a friend to most of us, and he has taken time out of his schedule to stop by and give us some words and some guidance. Representative Herodopoulos.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today, and thank you, Ms. Moss, for those kind words for our veterans and our active
duty servicemen and women who are in harm's way as we speak, including my son who's in the United States Air Force, so very much appreciated. I really enjoy spending time with each one of the commissioners. They've been so hospitable and make me feel at home as our new congressman. And you're Kathy, who's been a real lifeblood for you all as well, making sure that your voice is heard up in Washington, D.C. What I've tried to do a lot of, as you all know, is be in Indian River County as much as possible, get a firsthand feel of what's important, as I know the best ideas actually come from Florida, not Washington, D.C. And as I made the requests earlier this year, I hope you put some of those budget requests in so that we can make sure that whether it be the Fellsmere Library or other programs that we're working on there, those are funded. And the great news also is that we received our $14 million to work on the Indian River Lagoon, a record number for our community. And so we're moving forward on some of those issues and getting pleased with that progress, but there's still a lot of work to do. So I look forward to working with you all, and I just wanted to come by in person and say, obviously there's a lot of work to do, but I feel like we're making a lot of progress on many fronts. But the best thing I want to send a message today is that we are your voice in Washington, and we want to make sure that it is consistently heard. And I really appreciate the time you've each spent with me over the last year with those suggestions and ideas so we can move this country forward. We know that we're in a challenging situation with Iran right now and other issues. And I also want to give thanks to our members in law enforcement locally. As I spent a lot of time with them, sadly, because of the realities of politics, they watch out over me. But I know they're just recently in an engagement. And again, they show how they're always looking out for this community, and it's much appreciated. And Sylvester, we're excited for you. Glad to be here with you today. And again, an exciting time. With that, I don't want to talk at any great length. I just want to come by in person. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. But the best thing you can do for me is continue to provide great information so we can bring those ideas to Washington, D.C. and continue to bring back some of those resources we all need because this county definitely has issues that we can help with as we're partners on the federal, state, and local level.
Thank you very much. Commissioners?
I just want to thank you so much for your work on the library. You have been very accommodated in Indian River County, and we appreciate you being our voice in DC and look forward to a continued relationship.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Adams. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for your time to everyone, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Kylan.
Okay, Commissioners, that brings us to additions and deletions for the agenda. We have 3 proclamations. I would like to move item 15D1, which is Commissioner Flesher's item, and place that under basically 5D, or after the final proclamation. So our guest and his supporters and visitors can get back to their daily lives. So I will entertain a motion for that change.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second by Vice Chair Moss. Any further discussions on the addition? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And the motion carries. Commissioners, the first proclamation read today will be recognizing National Surveyors Week, which is an annual proclamation. This morning's proclamation will be read by Commissioner Joe Flesher. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it is an honor and a privilege to present this proclamation, as we have in the past, to identify the individuals who make it happen. And I say that because all the work that we do, every decision we make regarding property or any project has a surveyor attached to it every step of the way. And I think that we're very blessed, and when I read this proclamation, we'll hear once again as to the who's who, or who was surveyors, and the impact they had on this great nation. This proclamation is recognized in the week of March 15th through the 21st, 2026 as National Surveyors Week, whereas land surveyors are counted among the founding leaders of the country and were instrumental in the layout of the property boundaries of the United States, providing our citizens with the opportunity to enjoy the American dream of property ownership. And whereas the United States Presidents Washington, Jefferson, Adams, and Lincoln all served as surveyors, contributing to the historical mapping of the America in its early years. And whereas the surveying profession requires special education, training, knowledge of mathematics and related physical and applied sciences, and the requirements of law for evidence. And whereas surveyors are uniquely qualified and licensed to determine and describe the lands and the water boundaries for the management of natural resources and the protection of private and public property rights. And whereas continual advancements in instrumentation have required surveyors to not only understand and implement the methods of the past, but to learn and employ the modern technology and as changes occur throughout the years. Whereas the citizens of Indian River County recognize the valuable contributions of the surveying profession to the land development and the quality of life throughout our county, and in important decisions based upon the knowledge and expertise of a licensed surveyors and mappers. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the week of March 15th through the 21st, 2026, is recognized as National Surveyors Week in Indian River County, and the board encourages all citizens to applaud the many contributions and ongoing dedication of surveyors to the community and to the United States. This proclamation is duly adopted on the 10th day of March, 2026, and is signed by all 5 county commissioners. 5 county commissioners who truly appreciate who our surveyors are and what they do. And I ask the public at this time that as you're traveling the highways and the byways and passing the lands and you see a surveyor, they're wearing, the ones that are working out in the field are wearing orange or yellow vests for a reason. They want to be able to go home when they finish their work. So please respect that and understand that they're working for the greater good of perhaps you, one of your neighbors, or for this great county. So do we have some folks that would like to receive this?
We do.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm David Silon, the Assistant County Surveyor here at Indian River County. I'd like to introduce Bob Johnson, who works with LJA Surveying. He's a survey manager there, and he's also the president of the Florida Surveying Mapping Society.
Wow.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Fletcher, I want to thank you for those kind words. Members of the council, fellow citizens, I stand before you today to recognize Surveyors Week. While many see us as the folks in the neon vests on the side of the road, our profession is actually the silent engine behind every successful project in the city. In 1984, President Ronald Reagan first proclaimed this week to honor the honored and learned profession of surveying. He recognized what we often take for granted, that without precise measurements, there is no organized society. Every time you drive on a city street, walk through a public park, or enter a new library, you are standing on the work of a surveyor. Before a single shovel of dirt hits the ground, a surveyor was there. We were the first ones on site to map the terrain, and we will be the last ones there to ensure that the final structure matches the legal plan. Our role is twofold. First, we are the guardians of property rights. We resolve the invisible lines that prevent disputes and ensure that homeowners and businesses can invest in their land with confidence. Second, we are pioneers of technology. The days of just using a compass and chain are long gone. Today, we utilize high-precision GPS, drones, and 3D laser scanners to create digital twins of our infrastructure with millimeter accuracy. However, we face a challenge. As our current profession approaches retirement, we need to inspire new generations to pick up the transit. Surveying is a unique career that blends high-level mathematics and law with the great outdoors. It is a path for those who want to build the future while respecting the history of the land. So today, I ask the council and our community to look past the neon vests, recognize the professional surveyor as a key practitioner and partner in our city's growth, safety, and prosperity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, Mr. President, for taking the time. Oftentimes we overlook that title of president, but you have a lot of responsibilities on your plate statewide, I can only imagine. So for that, I say thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up.
You want to set the line over? Set the line? Yeah, well. Thank you again.
Commissioners, that brings us to our next proclamation, which is essential to the agency and essential to what we do overall in our lives, and that is recognizing
Somebody hit the light switch over there where they're back. Someone's back is on the light switch.
recognizing procurement month. Maybe we should procure some electricity. Yes.
It
Commissioner,
was a nice effect.
it was. Commissioner Ehrman, welcome.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is the first time we've probably ever done something for procurement month. I don't remember anything, do you? But I tell you what, he's right, this is important, because without procurement, we wouldn't have our stuff that we need to get stuff done with. So, you know, there's a lot of procurement that goes on in this world, housewives, households, do that. But when you're talking procurement on this level, when you're talking millions and millions of dollars all the way down from the federal government to the county and city level, it's a pretty darn big deal. And I think we've got the best in the state right here in Indian River County. So with that, I'm proud to read this proclamation designating March as Procurement Month. Whereas the public procurement profession plays a significant role in the efficiency and effectiveness of both government and business. And whereas, in addition to the purchase of goods and services, procurement professionals add value to the organization by performing such functions as executing, implementing, and administering contracts, developing strategic procurement strategies, and cultivating effective relationships with suppliers and other departments within the county. And whereas public procurement professionals serve as the gatekeepers of the competitive processes and are entrusted with the responsibility of ensuring those processes are conducted with fairness and transparency for our partners in the business community. And whereas Indian River County's Procurement Division is committed to the established procurement best practices as well as the guiding principles of accountability, ethics, impartiality, professionalism, service, and transparency. Whereas, by illustrating the highest standards in innovation, professionalism, productivity, e-procurement, and leadership, the Procurement Division earned the 2025 Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award from the National Procurement Institute. And whereas the Institute for Public Procurement, the NIGP, and Florida Association of Public Procurement Officials, the FAPPO, have each proclaimed the month of March as Procurement Month to further expand the awareness of procurement professionals' role to government officials, the general public, business, and corporate leaders. Now, therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim the month of March 2026 as Procurement Month, and it's adopted this 10th day of March 2026 and signed by all 5 county commissioners. So Jennifer, thank you and your staff for all you do for this, to make sure that, again, we have all the stuff we need and all the stuff is done in the right manner, in the proper fashion. So thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Jennifer Hyde. I'm the County Procurement Manager. I just want to thank you for the acknowledgement of Procurement Month. You're correct, this is the first time that the board has acknowledged it. I did bring our first ever AEP award along as well for visual aid. And I also did want to extend my thanks to all of you and Jennifer and John and Kristen for the incredible support you've given us, especially over the last couple of years as we've really stepped up our game and improved our processes. And we plan to continue doing that and keeping us all well above the minimum level and doing the best job we can. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Come on up.
Thank you.
Procure some more land.
Moving right along, ladies and gentlemen, our next and final proclamation will be celebrating Girl Scouts. Commissioner Adams, welcome.
Thank you. Is Jenna Swanson here or anybody from the Girl Scouts?
Want to TP it?
We were hoping that they would have brought some cookies, to be honest with you. I mean, we can wait and see if somebody shows up, or I can go ahead and read it, whichever you prefer, Mr. Chair.
Let's TP it.
Okay. If anybody sees the Girl Scouts, send them in. Because of course we want to give them a proclamation, but see if they have any Thin Mints.
Great. And commissioners, as earlier discussed, we have moved in a very, very important item. In fact, the most important item of the day, item 15D1, which is sponsored by Commissioner Joe Flesher. And I think this is long overdue, Commissioner, and it is a proud day in Indian River County. You're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, the notation says 64th Avenue. It is 86th Lane. I just wanted to add that, but that's not an important part. What's important is today, amongst the League of Individuals who have come here, we have several members from our armed forces, many of them high-ranking, many of them all served and did so for all of us. And as I'm just wanted to reflect, basically it's the discussion for one individual, an individual who I've known for a long time that has done so much for our great nation, done so much for the community. Call him Doc, call him Mac, call him Reverend, call him Sarge. You pick what it's about, but the impact that he has had on this community for so long, but it goes back to an early time where some of the people on the dais were not really around. This was in the 60s. It was a time when we were at war, and an individual gave so much during the war and came home and continued to do it again. In order to best put this into perspective, and before we put Sergeant Sylvester McIntosh in the light, I'd like to start it off with a video. I'm sure we have the opportunity to indulge in a video. It's about 10 minutes long, but I think it puts everything into perspective. Can we do that? If you want to lean on that light switch, it might even work out a little bit. There you go. Thank you.
USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veterans' stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
The President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson.
I'm happy to have this opportunity to speak to the students of America. At such a time, when historic decisions and a deep commitment by all Americans are quite necessary, you are doing the most important work which you really can do, preparing yourselves for a future that's filled with danger, but also filled with promise.
I graduated June the 8th, 1965. We had to register for the draft, and there was a sergeant from the Army there, and he told me that I would be jumping out of airplanes at Fort Benning, Georgia, and I told him no way was I going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. So 2 weeks later, I decided that I was going in the Marine Corps. September the 1st, that year, I wind up in the Marine Corps at Parris Island, South Carolina.
Your first look at Parris Island is a quick one. You move directly from the bus into the reception building.
From Parris Island, graduating in October that year, I wind up going to Camp Geiger, which is in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and I was sent from there to Camp Pendleton, California, where I became a part of the 1st Military Police Battalion, which had not been in effect since the Korean War. So from there, after our training on May the 8th, we wind up leaving Camp Pendleton for South Vietnam. South Vietnam, I was there about 2.5 months, and I decided that I wanted to do something that wasn't just as should have, so I wound up leaving the Military Police Battalion, going to Hill 55 with the 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, which is known as the Walking Dead. After being with the Walking Dead, 2.5 months, we were on a mission, a search and destroy mission, wherein in 3 days I wind up jumping on 3 different grenades. It was 3 days in a row, 3 different places. We were on search and destroy missions in different areas. The first one, we was guarding a railroad track, just about dawn in the morning before the sun came up. And we could see that as normally we halt, who goes there, and all of a sudden there were a grenade tossed. So I pushed my buddy down and I jumped on the grenade. He jumps up and he shoots the guy, kills him. Next night we're in a different area and we're sitting there and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose and we hear another thump. There's another grenade in the hole. Well, the next night it happened again, the third time. I wind up jumping on a. Most people ask me, did it take me 3 grenades to learn that? But we were trained to look out to save your buddy. So that was why it was done, because of training. Fortunate for me, the 3 grenades each time that were thrown was dodged. Well, first of all, that 5 seconds, it takes that grenade to look like a lifetime. So each one of those times you go through a change, because you don't know, you're waiting for it to go off to take you out of here. But people ask, how could you do what you did? I wasn't thinking. The adrenaline was pumping and I knew I had a job to do. And that's what I did. My main concern was to keep my butt safe and to keep my men safe. So later on, after going through 10 different skirmishes in Vietnam, my time was just about up. On May the 13th at what we call the church. That morning I had just been promoted to corporal. That afternoon, again, we was on search and destroy at the 17th parallel, wherein we ran into 2,000 or better North Vietnamese soldiers. Well, about 3 o'clock that afternoon, my lieutenant, my first sergeant, myself, and my first fire team leader, we were discussing, man, something's about to happen. So the lieutenant looked at me and said, Mac, do you feel that something? I said, yeah, the lieutenant, you know, every time my hat stand up on my head, there's something bad. Well, 15 minutes later, the lieutenant was dead. I was wounded, shot in the chest. But I went back into the engagement 3 different times to bring out, after being shot, for 3 different other Marines that I brought out. From there, I wind up coming back to Hospital Repos. From Repos, I wind up Clark's Air Force Base. From Clark, I came into Yokosuka, Japan. From Yokosuka, I wind up going to Anchorage, Alaska, only to be gassed up. From there, I wind up coming to Andrew Air Force Base. I spent 3 days there. From there, I wind up Montgomery, Alabama, to Air Force Hospital there. From there, I wind up in Jacksonville, Florida, which I'm a Floridian. So, and I was there for 2.5 months before I recovered. Then I went back to Parris Island, where I became an instructor on the rifle range. I wind up getting the Purple Heart, yes, from the wound where I got shot in the chest. Nobody knew anything about the 3 grenades that I jumped on earlier, because I never talked about it. You lose a lot of buddies in the beginning because you got acquainted with each other when you had the time. But once you got in the jungle and you got new recruits coming, you wouldn't get close to them because you didn't want them, that pressure that you've gotten so close and a loved one you lost. I mean, I don't get me wrong. There's a young man, I wish I could find his family. He was Mexican named John Avila. John was from Los Angeles, and we had gotten very close. And we were on a mission where we had gotten pinned down, and they were asking volunteers to go because our first platoon had gotten pinned down. They were in a crossfire between 2 machine guns, and our guys was laying there on. And so somebody had to go, so I volunteered to go. So did John from his platoon. And I look up, I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going with you. I said, no, don't need both of us going. Both of us at that time had just had kids. Neither one of us was married, but our girlfriends had had children, And I think our sons were maybe a day or two apart. He in Los Angeles, I'm in Florida. And when I went and I crossed the machine gun, I made it. When John went to come across, a bouncing Betty blew up and the fragments from it hit him in the throat. Now I can't worry about the dead, I gotta worry about my friend. So now I turn back, get back on that path under those machine gun fire, put him on my chest and get him off the path. Well, I learned 15 minutes later he had died. And you go into shock, especially. So you learn after that, not get so close to people unless you're gonna go through it. And to see your friends die like that, it's hurtful. Yeah. I got out of service in 1968. I wound up working in the citrus industry for a while. 1972, I believe, I went to work for Piper Aircraft. I worked there 7 years, and from there I wind up going in the Postal Service. I have 4 kids. My oldest daughter, which is the 3rd child, we mentally challenged because of Agent Orange, but yet and still they are saying, oh no, that wasn't the case. But my other kids are successful. My oldest son went off to college, and he has now a private investigator for DCF. My youngest son, which is the 2nd oldest, he will retire next year with 26 years. He did 4 years in the Marine Corps, and the rest of the time now he's in the Army. My youngest daughter, she is assistant state attorney down in West Palm Beach. My grandkids are serving. I have a granddaughter that's an E6, I believe. She's in the Army, and she has finished with her degree, planning on going in as a warrant officer. My youngest grandson, he now is, he went in as a mechanic, had enough of that, so he's in bio now. In medicine, he's in South Korea. So you know my story. Well, I tell people it's not me, it's all about God, God and country. I'm a minister. I'm still a servant in the community. I'm on life membership with some of everybody, VFW, with American Legion, disabled veterans, you name it. And I'm also with the 19th Judicial Court system here in Indian River County as a mentor. So I'm still working in that field, helping people. That's my main goal, being a servant of God.
Well, that's most of Sylvester McIntosh's story. He's got a whole lot more. I'll tell you that I was had the honor of being at his Purple Heart ceremony. And now if anybody's looking at the timeline, they're realizing that those actions took place during the Vietnam War, which was from 1st November 1955 to 30 April 1975. How was I at a ceremony? You see, we often say that government doesn't get a speeding ticket, and either did the recognition for what this man has done. And, you know, in the Vietnam War, there were 58,220 killed in action. And over 150,000 wounded in action. Sylvester McIntosh was one of those numbers and could have been one of the other numbers, one of the other accounted for. And he did prevent the loss of his brothers' lives. He protected and served admirably. So some 50 years later, he received his due, or what is right and just. He was honored with the Silver Star, one of the highest decorations that can be afforded to those who serve. And I think at that point, when that all clicked, that it took so long for that to happen. Sylvester is not 19 anymore, as he said. I didn't know that, so I appreciate that tutelage. But, you know, the recognition was there, and I believe that I want to ask my colleagues if we could dedicate the very street in which he lives on, 86th Lane, from 66th Avenue to 63rd Avenue, and honor him with Sergeant Sylvester McIntosh, a dedication. Not change the name of the street, just to let people know the sacrifice that I had to be reminded of some 50 years after that sacrifice was made. The wounds have healed on the physical end, but this man has not only fought for your country, but he has continued to be a great mentor and supporter of what is right in the community. And he has been dedicated, as you heard, in so many other arenas. I think that it is the right move to dedicate that street so that the next generation knows we were honored to be served by Sylvester McIntosh. Doc, come on up. Come on, please.
I'm honored this morning and humbled because it was not so much me looking to do something, but as a servant of God, God had put me in me as a young man to always do for others. And I've learned through the history of my family, 7 generations who have served in the military. I have a granddaughter that's now, that is Captain E2, warrant officer that is still serving. But my most joy was to get up each day, pray for my family, to ask God to make sure that we were successful in whatever we do. Not to take glory from any man, but to be thankful to God that I'm able to stand here today. And to every one of you commissioners, I say thank you. Growing up in Indian River County, you know, I went through Jim Crow and all these things. I could tell you stories that had happened here. But I was never bitter. And the reason being, my father an immigrant coming from the Bahamas taught me, say, you don't dislike people because of the color of their skin, but if you got a dislike, it's because how you're treated. But I don't want you carrying hatred in your heart, and that's something I have never done. I love this county. I grew up in this county, and you see many of my family and friends are here, and I'm glad to see them here. I met you two when you were both police officers, and I worked with you. That's our job, to work with each other, to treat each other as sisters and brothers, because we are doing a job for kingdom work. You're sitting behind your desk, you're making decisions for other people. And that's what God has for us to do, to make sure that we look out for each other. It's not about me or you or I, but it's all about the things of God. And today with my family and friends here, I'm just humble. And again, I say thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're very blessed to have you as part of our community, to maintain, to be a native son and still do what you did, and then come back and return and give more. One thing I did not point out, this man was our interim postmaster.
Yes, at one time, at Wabasso.
Making sure that your letters didn't go to the dead letter file.
I got my bills.
You got your bills.
I work with him.
And I guess we can talk for another half hour about all the great things, and I just want to say thank you. And I hope that you will accept, if that is moved here on the dais, that you would accept, as humble as you are, that you would accept that dedication to the street. Mr. Chairman, there's a lot of individuals here that came for support, his family and any of the members that I've worked with for so many years in the Veterans Council, and of course, he's well represented by the Marines. Not all of the attendees are Marines. You'll just sort that out. But they are here in full support. I see several colonels here. Is there anybody that would like to say anything in regarding to this? If not, I would like to. I just want to recognize that you all are here in support. Please, Colonel Young.
Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit. As I was thinking of my good friend Sylvester, as a fellow native of our community, if you walk onto the island and you think of the Vietnam War, there were certain years where our community gave a lot. And if you think of the Tet Offensive in '68, you think of the years of '67 when Sylvester was there. It's educational because if you look, when he was walking into the ambush site, you had other men from our area. Roosevelt Scott from Gifford, he didn't make it back. Billy Templeton from Gifford did not make it back, okay? James Ellis Loudermilk did not make it back. Ronald Neal, another Sebastian young man, did not make it back. And as you think about the men that he went into the ambush site, you don't go back into an ambush site. It is asking not to come home. He went back into the ambush site to bring back fellows that served beside him. And Sylvester said he wanted to be a servant of God. And if you look into Scripture in the Gospel of John, it said the greatest love you have for any other person is to sacrifice your life. He was doing that. And you think to yourself, even before he walked into the ambush site, 3 times, if you read of the lore of heroes, to jump on a grenade, you are basically offering that up. So again, without getting too emotional, Sylvester is a great American. He's been recognized as a Silver Star. But if there is nothing that you could do that would better reflect Indian River County than acknowledge his service to our community with dedicating that piece of property in honor of him. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Colonel.
Colonel, well said.
Colonels, anybody?
Commissioner Flesh.
At this point, I have to say, again, my request to Anna is for 6 or possibly 7 signs to honor Sylvester McIntosh. And I want to make that motion with the understanding, if there's any concern of cost factor, that I will cover the cost of the materials to get them up there. The other factor is that if I mentioned that the Vietnam War was ended on 30th April, and if this is moved, we could possibly beat feet and get it done. So it has even more significance to honor Sylvester McIntosh. Sergeant.
Commissioner, you have a motion on the floor.
Yes.
I honorably second that motion. Commissioners, any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say one thing. You know, it's especially poignant because during the Vietnam era, those that did return did not receive the acknowledgement and the welcome that they deserved. None of them. I know many of them. No one received it. So it makes it, I think, especially poignant to have this recognition of the service. But I want to take this opportunity to thank all of them, all our Vietnam vets, and beyond thank you, welcome home. Thank you, sir.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Any further questions? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest you ask for public comment, if there's any public comment on the action item.
I did.
Okay.
Is there anyone else that?
I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Congratulations, Sergeant McIntosh.
Can I get the family to come up here? Yes. Got quite a few supporters here, Doc. Me. I know. Good to see you.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Get over there.
Get in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
We work together. Getting closer.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Let's set up something and make it, and it's gonna happen. Thank you. Thank you.
That's that Bahamian blood in all that Bahamian blood in
That being said, this meeting will be in recess until 5 minutes after 10. Commissioners, it is 5 minutes after 10. We are back in our normally assigned meeting for March the 10th, 2026. We do have some great news. The Girl Scouts are in the green room next door. Commissioner Adams.
No, yeah, right here, actually, in the
Oh.
green jacket.
Oh.
Come on up. We have some good news. They're here. The bad news, we don't see any cookies.
Yeah, we didn't see that.
I brought cookies and I was told we weren't allowed to give them out.
You
So
can
I
always
do-
give out cookies.
That's what I thought.
Welcome.
No problem.
Who made that
Welcome.
rule?
I'll go back and get them.
Listen, you guys they were selling Girl Scout cookies in front of Marsh Landing a couple weeks ago, and I get a picture from my staff of my son, who has literally 12 boxes of Girl Scout cookies stacked up. I'm like, this is what he gets. He's never working without me being there again. But he's eaten them all, and he's very happy. All right, it's my pleasure to read a proclamation celebrating the Girl Scouts turning 114. Whereas on March 12, 1912, Juliet Daisy Gordon Lowe founded Girl Scouts in Savannah, Georgia, creating opportunities for girls to develop courage, confidence, and character. And whereas for 114 years, Girl Scouts has remained a premier leadership development organization, empowering girls to become innovators, risk takers, and leaders who make a positive impact in their communities. And whereas Girl Scouts of Southeast Florida serves more than 6,900 girls ages 5 to 17 across Broward, Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, and Okeechobee counties. And whereas Girl Scouts encourages girls to give back through community service and civic engagement, helping them develop a lifelong commitment to leadership, volunteerism, and strengthening their communities. And whereas, through programs in science, technology, engineering, and math, entrepreneurship, the outdoors, and civic engagement, Girl Scouts equip girls with essential life skills and opportunities for service. And whereas, Girl Scouts continue to provide a safe and supportive environment that nurtures confidence, resilience, and leadership in the next generation. Now therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that March 12th, 2026 is hereby recognized as Girl Scouts Day in Indian River County, and we commend Girl Scouts of Southeast Florida for 114 years of leadership, service, and commitment to empowering girls to make a positive impact in their communities. Adopted this 10th day of March, 2026, and signed by all 5 county commissioners. And I'd just like to say thank you, because I think we joke about the cookies, but one of the things that is so amazing about the Girl Scouts is they are leadership development, encouraging girls to get involved, to gain confidence and leadership skills. So we appreciate what you guys have done. Happy 114th birthday. That's amazing. And we look forward to 114 more.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Would you like to say a few words?
Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah. So we are 50 million Girl Scout women alum strong. So the 800 girls that are in Indian River County are going to be joining that alum soon. And we just want to thank you for all that you're doing. We are now moving to have our Girl Scouts back in schools, which is very exciting. We had legislation last year with the state that allows us to do that and allows us to have teacher stipends. So our teachers are now becoming troop leaders at the schools, and we're continuing to build that leadership. So thank you so much for all that you guys do and for continuing to invest in our girls.
Fantastic. Well, come on
Thank
up,
you.
we'll have a
Thanks
picture.
for being here.
I'm a Samoa's girl. Yeah, caramel and coconut. Thank you. Congratulations.
Commissioners, that places us back on schedule. Before you is the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting, January 27th, 2026.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
I have a motion to approve. I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the approval of the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Commissioners, in front of you on 7A is the event calendar for March and April. Totally packed this time of year. I would encourage you and any of our viewers to take a look at that event calendar. Next is our public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on any agenda-related matters, except for public hearings. Well, there'll be a separate time for that. Do we have any public comment on agenda-related matters? Seeing none and hearing none, Commissioners, we will move on to consent agenda. What is your pleasure?
I'd like to pull 9K, please.
9A?
K.
Sorry, K. Okay. Any others, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, move approval as amended. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second to move approval as amended. Bringing up item 9K, Commissioner Moss, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 9K is a resolution accepting final plat dedications for Lost Tree Preserve PD townhomes, and it involves 453 units. At the time I was reading the background material, I was trying to remember what I voted on this, and actually, we didn't vote on this. And that's something I will need to discuss in the future, because this goes all the way back to, according to, I discussed this with the county administrator, but in tracing it back, it goes back at least as far as 2010. And, you know, the problem with this, it's so many units, is that the area around it, when things like this go on and on and on for years and years and years, you know, we need more of a deadline. It should be whoever voted for it. And actually, only one of us was here in 2010. Right, yeah, only, yeah. Either way, whether you had, you know, the other four of us were not here. You might recall, it was interesting to me, when we were discussing the sheriff's budget, we were told, well, we cannot obligate future commissions. But in a sense, when you vote on something in 2010, you know, it obligated the other four of us, and could have obligated the other five of us for the future. So I think we need to think in terms of some kind of deadline or some kind of reasonable period of time in which, you know, projects can be completed. Because as we know, well, the county's changed tremendously since 2010. A lot has changed. So I feel very strongly about that. We need to take that into consideration. And the other thing is, it made me realize that when we're voting on things currently, I don't know how many of these other things are out there. You know, how many things were approved in 2010? I don't know. I don't know if this is the only one, or if there are other things out there. It's, it could be analogous to being an air traffic controller. You're deciding who comes in for a landing, but you don't know how much is out there. You know, what was out there, what was approved, you know, 10, 15 years ago. So I'm not in favor of this. I really urge us to, and the staff, to take a look at this for future, you know, for future votes on development. You know, we need to put some kind of reasonable timeline in place for implementation. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Fletcher.
I'd like to just quickly comment on that. When we say that a commission should not commit a future commission, that is regarding funding. That is regarding the budget that they're presented with, that we don't obligate the future expenditures without the unknown of what's available and what is able to be afforded to all the budget requests. It has nothing to do with committing to something that was so well vetted and discussed publicly at public hearings through P&Z and through this commission. Albeit, yes, I was the only one at the commission at the time when that decision was made, but I'd like to turn it over to the county administrator to explain the if there is a perceived dilemma, that there actually is not one. County Administrator.
So under the current PD ordinance, there is no time frame in which the preliminary PD approved by the P&Z expires. This one was approved in 2010, and Phase 1 was, final plat approval was not completed till 2018. So you're currently evaluating the PD ordinance, and I would recommend that maybe this become a topic of discussion, because there are many communities that do have a time frame, whether it be a year or 2 years. Some have gone out as far as 3 years, where if it's not, moved, that it expires, and then they would have to, it falls back on the underlying zoning that exists previously.
And County Administrator, you mentioned 2018. I think there were a few more here at the time than just one. So it's not volleying a future commission in any way, shape, or form. We do change on these seats, but the decision was well vetted, discussed, publicly noticed, publicly discussed at the P&Z, and it occurred here in these chambers in front of the good people that we serve.
That is correct. All procedures appear to be followed correctly. There was a significant gap of 8 years between the preliminary approval and the final approval for the Phase 1 of the project. Phase 2 and 3 was 5 years later in 2023, and Phase 4 and 5, I believe it was in 2025. So, I think the larger point is that 15 years for a project that was approved.
I mentioned earlier about government oftentimes doesn't get a speeding ticket, either does projects. And there are amendments and there are changes, but they are responsive to the community needs and the original project.
Just not to belabor the conversation necessarily, but is a good opportunity perhaps to have staff or somebody come back and just go over what the statutes are, what the process is, where we might be able to change the process, and where we are statutorily required to go through a certain process. And then if there's proposed changes, a commissioner could always bring an item back. But I think first we need to educate ourselves on what some of those changes are at a future date, so we can have a better conversation. Yes.
So is that to come back in the future?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with that, and I wasn't planning to have the conversation today. And I appreciate what Commissioner Fletcher said, that yes, for that discussion with the sheriff's budget, it was monetary. But the same principle applies to development. We don't know where we'll be 5, 10, 15 years from now. So, I don't think we should make decisions to go that far out in terms of development. And just like that was specific to financial. I think development is just as big a question mark, or can be. And I don't think that.
And you're right, and Commissioner Moss, when you stated that there are so many things out there, there are. And if they do cross the line with budgeting, I absolutely agree, because nobody has a crystal ball as to what's going to be available. As you can turn the same argument that nobody knew that we were going to be growing, that people were going to maybe developing a more mass exodus to our fine community, and we want to maintain what we have. And if the projection for the development did not take all that in consideration, I could see the point, but this is legally sufficient and sound, and the proper procedure went through that was available to make the decision to go forward.
Yeah, and just so you know, I'm not saying it was the wrong decision at the time. I didn't look at the minutes. I didn't research the entire thing. It's just that it was a very long time ago, that's all, and a lot has changed. I think Commissioner Adams has a good suggestion. Can we review everything? You know, staff can make a presentation, and then we can see if we want to address it in the future.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Urban.
Chairman, it's kind of where I was going with what Commissioner Adams said, because when you read the analysis portion of this, it says, of course, we know about this, but the recent change, Florida statutes, final plats no longer require Board of County Commissioner approval and will now be approved administratively by the designated administrative office, which is the county administrator. The BCC, through resolution, must still accept final plat dedications, easements, rights, or allowances to the county as designated on the final plat document. So there's still some questions about that, whether that's, you know, good, bad, ugly, whatever we want to say. But I think, yeah, I just think we need some more clarification on that part of it, because it's another preemption that Tallahassee knows more about our zoning and about our uses than we do, so.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Commissioner Moore.
All right, well, I'm not supporting this, so someone else can make the motion.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
I'll be opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Moss dissenting. Commissioners, that brings us to government, constitutional officers and governmental agencies. Sheriff Eric Flowers is present. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and staff. Thank you for your time today. I'm here today to request the spending of $274,017 from our law enforcement trust fund. Those are dollars that are self-generated by law enforcement, no tax dollars in that. Of that, $263,017 will be used for equipment, SWAT, courthouse, civil, and $11,000 would go to charity organizations, which is listed in the item sent over, the different organizations. This has been a longstanding practice, and many of the organizations that are receiving money are ones that have been receiving money for some time under Sheriff Lord before me. So appreciate your time and consideration in this.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And the motion carries.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 11, public hearings. This is legislative in nature. I see our staff. President Brandon, welcome.
Shot.
Looking good today.
Yeah, the best. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Before you today is the Land Development Regulation amendments to introduce mobile food dispensing vehicle regulations within unincorporated Indian River County. So we already had this meeting once, so I'm going to just go through back to the background and the highlights, and then we'll move for discussion. So just to go over the LDR amendment process, so this is legislative in nature. It requires a public hearing by both the PZC with a recommendation to the BCC, and then the final hearing by the BCC, which we're here today for. So a little background and analysis. The county LDRs currently have no regulations on mobile food dispensing vehicles and are therefore considered prohibited across the board with the following exceptions. They may be approved through a temporary use permit as a special event, or may be operated at the Gifford Farmers Market. And I want to be clear that this ordinance today has no bearing on changing this for the Gifford Farmers Market. It will still be allowed across the board, and there are no changes for that. In 2020 and 2023, the state of Florida adopted certain statutes that preempted local governments from imposing their own licensing and fees. Local governments maintain the ability to regulate food trucks with respect to location and zoning districts, hours of operation, site compatibility, and aesthetic standards. And then I also want to highlight that this also doesn't have any bearing on any special events per se. So if there is a special event organizer, they still can pay fees to the county. However, the individual food truck operators are not responsible for paying any fees to the county for temporary use or for any licensor. On July 15th of 2025, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to prepare a set of staff-initiated regulations. Staff gathered and analyzed input from the commission and prepared the regulations based on that input and from the requirements of Section 509.102, which governs mobile food dispensing vehicles of Florida state statutes. The Plan and Zoning Commission, at their meeting on December 11th, 2025, voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed ordinance and the mobile food dispensing vehicle regulations with one change regarding timing of the ordinance effectiveness to take effect 90 days after final adoption by the Board of County Commissioners. This allows everybody to digest the regulations that are approved, and then enforcement can begin 90 days after that, so we can have an education period. At its regular meeting on January 13th of 2026, the Board of County Commission considered the draft food truck ordinance and directed staff to make several changes before returning to the Board of County Commission for a final adoption. The requested changes were as follows. Add general commercial as a zoning district as an area where food trucks are allowed to be located on a principal site with a 3-acre minimum requirement. Remove the hours of operation limitations and allow one maximum 10-foot long table and a 10-foot by 10-foot tent for each food truck. In addition to the above referenced changes, the County Attorney's Office recommended that several whereas clauses be included to clarify the legislative intent of the ordinance. Lastly, the definition section was amended to clarify the reference of Section 509.102 Florida statutes to add the words "or as amended" in case the definition is modified by the state in the future. This allows us to not have to change our definition every single time it may change in Florida statutes. Staff recommends that the BZC adopt the proposed LDR amendments to institute mobile vehicle dispensing vehicles regulations within unincorporated Indian River County. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? Any questions of staff?
One thing is I wanted to talk about was the CG, the limitation on 3 acres.
Yes.
Why?
So that comes about as kind of a safety concern. So we have a lot more general commercial properties within the county than we do heavy commercial or industrial zoning districts. And we want to make sure that there's safe traffic lanes, safe travel lanes rather, for certain properties. So we've kind of determined that a 3-acre minimum would kind of meet that requirement so that there isn't any conflict with parking spaces or users on a specific property, because we're seeing that a lot of these food trucks are, especially in the general commercial zoning district, are operated at like your Walmarts, your Home Depots, places where drive aisles are typically tight and there's a lot of traffic and a lot of people.
So basically, because the big box stores they historically do have food vending, and there's great anticipation that there is a food vendor that's going to be located at least one of the big box stores.
Typically, that's what we see, yes.
So that would not come into play here.
No, that would not prohibit those big box retailers from having food trucks.
Basically, the impact on State Road 60.
Mm-hmm. Well,
How does this impact anything on one of our corridors on State Road 60 and US?
so for a traffic purpose, it shouldn't affect anything on the actual roads. I mean, for the most part, if you're gonna have a food truck within, like, let's say Home Depot or Walmart, most people are probably gonna be doing their shopping at one of those big box retailers, and then they're gonna be going to the food truck if it's available. I do know that at the Home Depot side, I believe there's a Wahlburger that's associated with Home Depot, and sure, you probably get some traffic from some lunch folks that maybe aren't shopping at the big box retail store, but it's probably a good guess that a lot of those customers are probably going to utilize that resource as well. So it shouldn't add any more traffic to the roads than we already have.
And as I stated at a previous meeting when we made the request, that I sincerely doubt that one of the restaurants would be providing a location, a parking spot for a food truck.
Right.
But the auto supply may wish to afford that because they have the ample parking.
Right.
So we're limiting it to just that one spot.
So minimum of 3 acres on any general commercial property, but they also have to have a principal user on the site as well. So you couldn't locate on a vacant piece of property that doesn't have improvements, doesn't have an actual user on the site, but that's really what we're limiting it to. And I would say that since we haven't really been regulating food trucks since at least July, we haven't been aware of any issues or any conflicts or anything with either traffic or anybody violating any other codes.
I think that the food truck population as a whole are rather humble operators. They're not trying to be invasive or nomadic poaching, which, you know, we did hear that side of it, but these are small businesses that want to provide a service and have the capacity to do so. They just need to have some regulation so they can do it. I noticed that a lot of the regulation you enumerated would come from the health department as far as the waste and distribution and all of that. Do we have the capacity to ensure compliance?
Yes, obviously with anything, we would act with code enforcement complaints. We're gonna start out with, education first, so that's what really the first 90 days is for, to educate the public. We're here to answer questions. We're not here to really slap anybody on the wrist. And then enforcement will go as either complaints or if a code enforcement officer is out and sees something. But we're always trying to find a solution with all these things, so we're not looking to get anybody in trouble necessarily, but we just want to make sure that everybody's operating under the rules.
And hours of operation?
So we're actually eliminating hours of operation based on the recommendation at the last meeting.
I think that's important because we'd have to actually have some folks, if there was an event, I understand it's not the same as the ordinance. However, there would be some quite an element of confusion of how someone has to operate, so.
And because we're eliminating the hours of operation, we're also eliminating the time frame that they have to actually be off the property. So originally, I believe the ordinance originally said 10:30 or 11 they had to vacate the property, but because we're not having hours of operation, we're just changing it to they have to vacate the property at the end of their business day.
And again, there were a few food vendors here, something that they had to depart. But in discussing it, we do have 2 locations that are here on a consistent basis daily. Each night, the trucks are to be removed.
Yes. But because we eliminated the hours of operation, we've also eliminated the time that they actually have to vacate the property to just at the end of their business day. Because if we don't have hours of operation, we can't really dictate when they have to leave the property.
So if they removed them at midnight,
That would be within the scope of the ordinance.
it would be in the scope of the ordinance. Okay. All right.
I have a couple questions for you, Brandon and Mr. Sweeney. First and foremost, the state licensed these. We, as a county, have no authority licensing them.
That is correct.
The second thing with respect to the code enforcement, are your code enforcement officers, Mr. Sweeney, going to be trained in the signs and symptoms of?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Ryan Sweeney, Assistant Planning Development Services Director. So we are, assuming this ordinance gets passed today and whatever tweaks might occur, we're going to do an in-depth training internally with both planning staff and code enforcement. And then also, that's the reason for the 90-day sort of enactment period. We want to reach out to the food truck operators and say, hey, previously you were allowed to essentially to kind of do whatever you want. These are the rules in place. So yes, absolutely, it's going to be internal education as well.
Since this discussion in July, how many complaints have we had over food trucks since July?
Very few. I think on occasion there might be someone from out of town that sets up too close to the entrance. I do believe one truck was too close to an entrance or was near a fire lane, but
So if we discover violations, they would then come before the code board. The code board has no authority over their license, only a civil fine, as we've all read. What if my food truck is a 24-hour operation?
so it could be 23 and a half hours. The whole intent of it being removed from the site is to ensure that it remains mobile and doesn't become, a permanent fixture of the site.
But if I declare that I have a 24-hour operation, then I don't have to move my food truck.
You would be in violation of that section in particular. I don't think the intent is to, chalk the tires, so to speak. I think the intent is to make sure that these trucks are in fact mobile and don't become permanently affixed. So whether they loop around the parking lot and go right back in theory, that's in keeping with the code. And there was a mention of a truck that folks thought they was staying, but they do in fact move in the middle of the night. Different operators do, some offer, breakfast items, hot coffee, things like that, so they're operating in the morning. Others are operating during the day. So we weren't really in the business of, dictating that, just that they do remain mobile.
So being legislative in matter, we are legislating an ordinance.
That's correct.
And oftentimes we perhaps critique Washington or the state of Florida on their legislation. Commissioners, I think each of us have expressed some concerns on that. I would suggest we be very mindful on legislating an ordinance of this nature, considering the true absence of any complaint since July. Mr. Irvin, Commissioner Irvin.
Mr. Chairman, I have just a couple of questions. I think the 3-acre thing's kind of can be debated. I mean, we have food trucks out here sometimes. I know we have more than is bigger than a 3-acre campus, but traffic-wise or parking lot-wise, we don't have any 3-acre parking lots, but yet we've had them out here. I think that's for the owner to decide of what they want to do. Most of the food trucks that I've seen understand it, so I'm not really, I don't think the 3-acre thing's needed. The unpaved surface, I don't think is needed either, because it might be a better location to have it on an unpaved surface versus having it in a parking lot, depending on the location. Food trucks are always on unpaved surfaces. They're on the county fairgrounds on unpaved surfaces. I know it's part of the event, but I think it makes sense just to really not worry about what they're parked on, as long as they're not dumping something on the ground or something like that, which is a whole other area. As to vacating the property, if you go look at Home Depot right now, you got Wahlburgers there. They were gonna be in the front, but now they're back basically in the garden center. And they're not moving that thing in and out every day, because it was probably a big deal to get it where it is right now. So I don't want to make this hard on anybody who said we haven't, like Mr. Chairman said, and you all said we haven't had any complaints. I say, vacate the property is going to be tough. I mean, I agree. There probably shouldn't be there, make it a permanent thing, but Wahlburgers looks pretty permanent to me at Home Depot. I don't know how you do that. I think their hours are, when the store's open, they're open. When the store's closed, they're closed. So I would remove the 3 acres, the unpaved, and vacate the property for now. And then, everything else that's in it seems to be okay. I think that's about all we can do for now. So that would be my suggestion. I'm open for ideas.
I appreciate that. I think it should be noted that the guidance in the statute speaks that the county may have an ordinance. It's not shall, we may, meaning we don't even have to have an ordinance on this food truck issue. Mr. Administrator, if you could share some of our thoughts from yesterday.
So I think several of them have come up, one about the 3-acre size, as I noted, and I did speak with Mr. Stoll. is, I did find that, 20,000 square feet was the minimum that some places generally will prescribe in terms of the size of the property. 3 acres may be pretty significant, especially when you have placement. As long as you have the placement, I think the placement regulations are very important in terms of not obstructing a public sidewalk, roadway, public or private, required building access, driveway, drive aisles, loading areas, fire lanes. So I think you could do some of you could do those. The duration, that's certainly up for the commission's decision on how you want to do that. I know we talked about the unimproved and improved pervious surface area, or unpaved and unimproved pervious surface, with the fact that we also have the waste management requirements that you're not going to be discharging onto the ground. And then the other one was really about the furniture and the tents. So I understand that we've not had any complaints. I think some of these are, I think the 3 acre, to our discussion, might be a little bit, could be arguably considered more onerous. I don't know, since we've had 0 requirements. But I think the placement components and there's with the exception of the duration, the waste management, utilities, parking access, all those are just reasonable regulations to protect and ensure some orderly nature on a piece of property on which a food, truck would be located. So I would just.
So just a reminder, the state of Florida licenses food trucks. The county does not license food trucks. If we find certain violations, commissioners, those would go to code. And we know the protracted way on how those would be satisfied. However, at the end of the day, we have no authority over their license.
Correct.
Just keep that in mind.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment? I just wanted to let commissioners know if you're inclined to adopt an ordinance today, but if you make substantial changes to it, which I think removing sections of it, it needs to come back in front of you. So you may understand that already, but I did want to make that comment. In other words, it has to be renoticed and heard.
Oh, and Mr. Chair, and the other thing you did ask about, and I did pull up, and I have it now. So for a general commercial district, it's defined as intended to provide areas for development of general retail sales and selected service activities. The CG district is not intended to provide for heavy commercial activities such as commercial service uses, heavy repair services, nor industrial uses. It's not the least intense commercial, as I think the neighborhood commercial and then maybe potentially the limited commercial district are a little bit lesser intense. So that goes back to, the conversation that we had about the size of it. Property, 3 acres.
Commissioners, any further comments? This is legislative in nature, so this will be an opportunity for the public to speak. I will now open this for public comment. Hearing none and seeing none, I will close public comment. Commissioners, I will also add that in the light of a lot of the perception of overreach, clearly we are legislating something locally that we haven't had any complaints of to speak of. Our enforcement arm is limited at best, and you have what appears to be hardworking and honest people making a living operating food trucks. I think there's a lot of holes in the particular ordinance, and by creating those holes would ultimately create greater conversation in our code enforcement boards, providing our code enforcement officers are extremely active in enforcing said ordinance. So with that, What's your pleasure?
Well, Mr. Chairman, again, as we started this off a comment, I think I pointed out a couple of concerns. I did so, and I clearly noticed, it's on, it's recorded, that there was a common thread as to what the concerns were. As far as the 3-acre rule, as far as the enforceability of the overnight, I think we have a consensus there. And in view of that, and in view of the other factors, but I just want to say, when you stated we can't enforce it, so this is a state license, this is our community. And I think that we do have to have a foundation in order to ensure that others, again, somebody from out of town coming in, wanting to operate, needs to know that this is Indian River County. This is not their playground. So we do have to have some regulation to ensure that this doesn't get out of hand. It doesn't get, and it hasn't when we had an unenforceable, when you removed the county administrator removed the enforcement arm for a certain period. And yes, we have not had chaos. We have not had food truck frenzy all through the streets, and we haven't had any noted violations, even though we did not have a violation. But again, the food truck vendors knew that this was coming forward. Now it's coming forward. But hearing what our council has advised, that these would be significant changes, I want to ask the attorney again if we should be continuing this, or do we have to renotice, reschedule, and rehear?
So you can continue it to a date certain, and then it would just be something that we would make sure is up on our website, and people would know it's been continued to a date and time certain in order to avoid the...
So we can continue this and note the changes or the thought process for change and have that accomplished for the very next meeting.
It's a very tight turnaround. With all due respect, the deadline to start those items is tomorrow.
You want to you want to loosen it up a bit.
Maybe just the next meeting after that would be a little bit more doable for getting something on the website and getting, I can anticipate what changes we need to make, but I don't want to rush them and then miss one.
Well, you did, Ryan, I want to say that both of you heard us.
Yes, sir.
And I think you recapitulated all of the statements.
Sure.
Assured that that was going forward, and it did, but, and I want to thank you for that. But I think that a little tweaking before it actually gets set into motion. So what would be the date in which we could do that, if that pleases the board?
The first meeting in April would be doable. Did the dates flip, John? I believe it goes, I want to say it's the 7th in April. It's not the second Tuesday, I believe it's the... Actually, let's just confirm that, because if we are going to do a date and time certain, we need to state it into the record. I believe it's the 7th.
Many of the changes have to go back before the P and Z.
I don't think so. I mean, I think you have to have a total of 2 hearings on an ordinance, but I think we've had, it's been to the Planning and Zoning Board, so, no.
The answer was no, sir?
I said no.
Oh, okay, I thought you, okay.
I think you sat
said-
back
I think
as
you said you
it didn't
wasn't
hit them, yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
it is
so-
the 7th of April.
7th of April, April 7, 2026 is the target meeting?
Correct. So we will continue this hearing and reopen it at that date.
So you think we got where we need to?
I mean, I'll just for clarification, I believe we're going to remove the 3-acre threshold from CG. We'll remove the duration line item entirely. And I don't have any heartburn with removing D, operating on unpaved or unimproved, just to be done with it. I believe those are the only 3.
Basically, their health and welfare portion
Correct.
is self-contained.
Correct.
Right? There's no discharge, there's no possibility of spillage. These are all units that have their own, like they have, I think they call them gondolas,
Yeah, in theory, everything should be contained.
as they do at the fairgrounds, as you mentioned, and many of the festivals in which we have out west of town or in the other municipalities.
Yes, all of the other placement criteria, 2A through 2C, will remain in place, and I believe those are sufficient for, on a site-by-site basis.
Commissioner Adams.
I have a question. Why can't we just make those changes now and approve it and be done?
So if you do make what's considered a material change, there is Attorney General guidance that it has to come back to you to be readopted so the public has notice.
And we're considering these material changes?
That's what appears.
I think so. I mean, as opposed to
I
clerical.
feel like we've had like 7
minor
meetings
technical.
on this, and I would just rather go ahead and pass it and be done. Like, we've had 1,000 meetings on food trucks.
We have substantial changes according to general counsel and the AG's
Well,
opinion.
The changes are just,
But it doesn't change like the
3-acre rule.
essence of the ordinance.
and that doesn't change the body of it, you're correct. And it's a space limitation, hours of operation, and dismantling,
The unimproved or
Unpaved ground.
Yep.
the unpaved ground.
Impervious.
Some, that it had to be on an impervious surface. Is that a material change?
It doesn't have to be on impervious. It could be on either one.
Right.
I feel like we're just,
Yeah, that's what I'm
we're just
saying.
removing items that are included, so it's not adding additional, it's taking away, which just makes it less, it's not adding to it. And to me, adding to it would be a material change, but I am not the county attorney, so.
And my advice hasn't changed, but certainly I just give advice.
Understood. I don't think anybody's going to sue us if we take them off, but I do appreciate that that is not a legal opinion, that is my personal opinion.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we accept the ordinance as presented by staff with the exception of unpaved surfaces, duration, and area of use, which would be the 3-acre, just take that out and let it go. That would be my motion.
I understand the advice of counsel.
And come back on April 7th with the final draft. Would that satisfy?
Hey, we have a motion to clarify a few things and bring it back April 7th.
I understand the advice of counsel, and we'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second to clarify the language as described and bring it back on April 7th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Aye.
He
already
already
did
did
that.
Oh, okay.
We did that. Thank
I
you.
just-
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Mr. Sweeting. Commissioners, that brings us now to public notice items. A notice of scheduled public hearing of budget amendment, March 24, 26. So that, basically, many of you know there is a budget amendment that's on the way. The next item, I think I've lost my place. Yeah, we got tied up with food trucks. Yeah, the next item is we've clarified Commissioner Fletcher's items. Utility Service, Department of Utility Service, Integrated Water Master Plan, Quarter 1, 2026, the update, presented by Howard. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Howard Richards, Manager of Capital Projects for the Department of Utility Services. We have a presentation. So today, we will be giving you the fourth update for the Integrated Water Master Plan for the department. As you know, the county is faced with a number of challenges in the near future, including utilities such as continuing population growth, a future dynamic regulatory horizon, aging of our infrastructure, and resource uncertainty in terms of monetary and people resources. So the Department of Utility Services engaged the services of HDR Engineering to develop an integrated water master plan. Initially, we set 8 primary goals for the plan to meet those challenges I just described, including goal number 1, forecasting the demand for utility services in the future, defining a program for managing infrastructure capacity and sustainability, define what our levels of service need to be as we go forward, and using a 20-year planning horizon for what improvements we need to make and how do we prioritize our investments, ensuring that we are in alignment with the public and our stakeholders through outreach, and also to partner with others in the industry, not just look at them as regulators, but how can we, in partnership with them, meet our future objectives, measure the finances and explore funding strategy for these investments, and of course, our valuable resources staff, what development do we need for our staff, and retention to meet our future goals. The HDR is using a methodology that is based on the EPA's integrated planning framework, which is a 6-step methodology, starting with defining the vision, evaluating our existing, our current state of our systems, ensuring alignment with the public, defining what the future state is, and also evaluating gaps between our current and future state, and what are those solutions to close those gaps. And then defining an implementation plan, and how do you measure how you're doing against that plan. So HDR came up with a fairly detailed work plan, this is fairly crowded here, but the takeaway from this is that the Integrated Water Master Plan is going to be delivered as a set of modules. It's a modular plan, and it's going to be delivered as 8 modules shown here. The first one we've completed, and this is to kind of give you an overview of where we are in the entire project right now. We've completed a visioning for that, and we've also evaluated the performance and condition of our current system under Task 2. Stakeholder engagement, we completed a set of engagement last year with the public to gain insight into what's most important to them, and we are planning a second round of public engagement coming late spring, early summer, after the Technology Master Plan, the draft of that plan is pulled together. We're going to be presenting that to the public to get input on that. The largest task of the project, task number 5, where we're going to be building 5 modules of the 10 modules, is well underway. We've looked at the treatment alternatives for both our water and drinking water system, including source water and effluent disposal for the wastewater. And now we're looking at the infrastructure component of it, which has taken quite a bit of time to get done. First, we have to develop this hydraulic model to be able to simulate conditions in the system, and then we're going to plug into that now the future demand for drinking water and wastewater flows to see what improvements in the infrastructure will be required. But at the same time, we're working ahead. As we complete those modules, we're going to be assembling the overall plan, and we've already established criteria for how projects are going to be prioritized for then building out that 20-year CIP. So overall, from a task perspective, we're about 75% of the way into the project. So since our last update in October, we have accomplished, we've had a number of accomplishments. The notable ones are, like I said, we've completed the demand and flow projections for the system, and we have evaluated both our treatment plant, treatment options for drinking water and wastewater, and we're beginning to do the evaluation for the infrastructure, as well as evaluating staff, doing a staff assessment for what we need to be like in the future in order to execute on the plan. For the project timeline, we are in a 22-month journey. We started in October of 2024, and we're projecting to be completed with this plan by about mid-July. And we are staying on schedule, pretty much is what this shows. And again, we're also about 75% of the way based on the timeline for the project. We also said we would give you an update on how we're using the contingency that you approved for the project. A total of $742,000 was approved in contingency. So far, we've authorized about a third of that, $272,000. And those authorization was for, number one, was to do additional public outreach and develop collateral material for the second round of public outreach that we're going to have in late spring, early summer. And the second authorization was for the extensive hydraulic model development and calibration that is required to then project the 20-year future for the plan. And we are working on a third contingency right now. We have 2 additional studies that is going on. One, as you know, is the Sebastian septic to sewer feasibility study. And we have interfaces of that study with the master plan. So that's taken additional master plan time to coordinate with that project. And another one is to convert our North County repump station into an inline station, which is to meet our future capacity demand by moving flow from the north to the west in the future. And so that's going to take a third use of the contingency. And we have about $470,000 of what you approved left. So that is my update, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, Howard, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your diligence in meeting with all of the commissioners prior to these meetings and briefing us. It makes it much more clear and understandable. So thank you. Commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. This time we have an opportunity for public comment on any non-agenda related matters. Hearing none and seeing none, the time is 11:05 and we are adjourned.